All right. So basically what we want to talk to you guys about today is FastFlow and our purchase request and capital expense request workflows. So FastFlow is a web-based tool that allows you to capture data and use it to automate workflows and also generate dashboards and reports. Electronic forms are routed instantly anywhere in the hospital, which allows you to maintain an audit trail and generate notifications to ensure quick completion of tasks. FastFlow allows you to monitor these critical metrics and key performance indicators in real time. So before we get started with walking through the process of completing a purchase request, I want to first show you the blank purchase request form that I am working with today. Our purchase request workflow is just one example that we'll cover in our monthly FastFlow webinars. So our goal today is to explain to you how we can convert your existing paper workflows into an electronic format that allows for automatic routing, data validation, tracking, and reporting. We design each one of our FastFlow forms in our form design software, and FastFlow supports the use of fillable text fields, checkboxes, and also drop-down lists. FastFlow can also use pre-populated data, so we can look up data from a database, and also perform data calculation such as multiplication and additions to sum up totals for our purchase request. In today's demonstration, I'm going to perform a database lookup to automatically pre-populate some of the information on this workflow. So for example, the vendor information, the vendor phone number, ID number, and also the initiator, so myself and my department number and date will automatically be populated onto this workflow. Now, as a staff member in your hospital, every staff has their own permissions, which allows you to restrict the workflows that they're able to view and access within FastFlow. For example, all employees may be able to access the human resources evaluation workflow, but you may be able to restrict the purchase request workflow to certain departments and also managers. Users are also able to search for a particular workflow or use the category drop-down list to view workflows that are assigned to their account. We do support integration into your hospital's Active Directory system, so your staff can continue to log into FastFlow using their existing username and password that they use for other hospital systems. FastFlow can also query an internal or a third-party database to perform a data lookup and populate part of the workflow. So for example, we could perform a lookup by either vendor ID or vendor name. All vendors that meet any of my search criteria will be returned and I can click on select to select the vendor. So in this example, I selected and searched on a vendor ID with the number 1 on it. So any vendors that met the criteria of having a number 1 in their payer ID column would be returned. And to select the vendor, all I would need to do is click on select. The search criteria and data columns can be customized to store any information that you want to use to populate the workflow. So for example, we can easily add in additional columns as well to support the vendor's address, their website, their sales rep, or any other information that identifies the vendor that you would like to automatically be populated onto the workflow. In addition, we could also point the FastFlow workflow to one of your existing third-party databases. So rather than using a local Formfast database, if you have a database out there that already has all of your vendor information to it, we could point the workflow towards that existing database so you do not have to worry about keeping 2 databases in sync. After I selected Alliance Medical as my vendor, the user is able to fill out the remaining sections of the workflow. In this example, we have automatically inserted the vendor information from our lookup in addition to the employee name, their department number, and also the date based on the account logged into into FastFlow. We are also inserting a unique requisition number in the upper right-hand corner here, which allows you to easily identify and locate the workflow in your content management system. FastFlow supports the use of fillable text fields, drop-down lists, and also checkboxes. And you may also specify required fields in a FastFlow workflow as well, which is something that you cannot do currently on paper. So for example, we could set any of these categories and fields to be required to ensure that the user fills out the information before they submit the workflow for approval. In this particular workflow, we are also automatically calculating the price by multiplying the quantity and price unit fields. This is important because we are routing this particular form to the appropriate parties based on the total dollar amount. For example, if my total in this workflow is over $10,000, my vice president will receive the workflow after my manager approves it. However, if the workflow is over $25,000, the CFO will also receive it. And if it is over $50,000, the CEO will also receive it. And all of these routes and rules are configurable by you, so you could set them up to match your existing hospital procedures and policies. Now, FastFlow also has an internal messaging system to keep track of requests and also send additional information over to individuals. In my example today, I have an electronic message that I sent over to Joe Miller, my department manager, to explain the purchase request that I just created. You'll also notice that we track the location of messages and these requests. With a request done on paper, you may put your request in an inter-office envelope and wait for your document to be delivered somewhere in the hospital. It may get delivered to the wrong floor or sit on a manager's desk when they're away on vacation. Within FastFlow, you're able to see where the present location of the workflow is at all times. I could tell if the workflow is sitting on my manager's virtual desk and also for how long using the activity column in the far right. My manager will also receive an email notification alerting them of a new pending request. So it doesn't matter where they are in the world. They could be on vacation, they could be traveling. As long as they have access to your hospital's VPN network to be able to access FastFlow, they are able to log in, view your purchase request, and also approve it. Now, FastFlow can be configured to send out email notifications to users. So depending on how often you use FastFlow, if you're a daily user that's logging in all the time, you may want to turn off the email notifications. That is configurable by the user. But if you're someone that rarely logs into FastFlow, you may want to receive that email alert just to let you know that you have a new pending request. So after receiving the email notification of a new request in FastFlow, my manager is able to log into the system to review my request. As the workflow moves through the route, each person is able to view the completed form, add in additional information to the workflow. So for example, if I forgot to fill out a particular section, I could click on that field and add in additional information, and then choose to approve or reject the workflow. My manager is also able to view the required actions on the bottom right under Workflow Actions. So in this particular case, they need to approve and sign the workflow per the requirements that I have set up in the workflow route. If they choose to reject the workflow, FastFlow allows them to enter a reason to notify the initiator on why their workflow was rejected. If they click on Sign and Send, their digital approval will be inserted with the signature box, and the workflow will automatically be routed to the next person for approval or completion. The logic that you define in FastFlow allows for FastFlow to automatically route your workflow to all required parties. And this is important because there's no longer any need to remember who needs to approve a particular workflow if a particular dollar amount is set. So for example, with this particular workflow, we require a signature from our vice president if it's at $10,000, our CFO if it's $25,000, and our CEO if it's $50,000. Rather than remembering and keeping track of everything, especially if you're a user that's only putting in, a purchase request, every couple months, FastFlow takes care of all of that logic and automatically sends the workflow to the next person. So in this particular workflow, since it was over $10,000, we required both my manager, Joe Miller, and our vice president, Victor Pernelli, to sign off on this particular workflow. Once they approve and sign the workflow, Joe and Victor's signature will automatically be inserted into the workflow. We also automatically insert the date and timestamp of when the approval was captured next to their name. And since this workflow was less than $25,000, we do not require the CFO or CEO signature, and the workflow is now complete. So these routes and rules that I'm showing here for the $10,000, $25,000, and $50,000, they are fully configurable, and they are all designed in our Visual Workflow Designer tool, which is what I'm going to show you next on how you could set up these routing rules. So the Visual Workflow Designer is an easy-to-use web-based tool to design your FastFlow routes. In today's example, we routed the workflow from the initiator to my manager, Joe Miller, and then finally to our vice president as the total amount was over $10,000. For each route, you could define the logic based on any of the fields in your workflow. And here's an example of linking the Vice President step to the total value field being greater than $10,000. I also built out the same logic for the CFO and CEO at $25,000 and $50,000, so that you could see on the right-hand box in the role step where a total is greater than $10,000, and then the checkbox above it that says link this step to a form field. That's how I am setting up the linking to make sure that the workflow gets routed to the Vice President if the total value is above $10,000. If the total is less than $10,000, it would not get routed to Victor in this particular case. Now, the steps on the left-hand column allow you to determine who receives the workflow next. So we could route the workflow based on roles, such as their IT director, CFO, CEO, as well as routing by departments. We could also prompt the user on who they want to route the specific workflow to, or also automatically route the workflow based on a particular data value or checkbox in the workflow. So, for example, on the workflow that I showed you guys with the checkboxes for warranty and service agreement, we could set up a route that if the contract or warranty box is checked, that the workflow automatically gets routed to a legal review team or a contract management team as well. Each step also allows us to specify if a signature is required. So we have two options for capturing an electronic signature. We could require a simple sign and send, where the user just needs to click on sign and send, and the workflow will get routed to the next party. Or we also allow the use of entering a PIN with the electronic signature. Now, the PIN just adds an extra layer of security, so if a person walks away from their desk, leaves their computer unlocked and the workflow logged in, rather than having someone walk up to their desk and hitting sign and send, adding the PIN feature will allow them to, enter a numeric PIN just to verify that it is them logged into the system. Our workflows also allow the use of adding external file attachments. So, for example, on the left-hand side, you can see the checkbox that says any user can add unlimited attachments. So a good use of this would be attaching a PDF printout, for example, of warranty terms. And we also allow the use of providing virtual Post-it notes to remind the user of important information. So we could prompt and alert the user of any particular information that you want to point out that may not be part of the form surface. So you can think of it as, if you have a paper form and you stick a Post-it note on it, the Post-it note's not part of the original form surface, but it alerts the user of some additional information. We also have the ability to add step actions during each approval process or at the final disposition. So in my example above, I have actions occurring for the CEO, the contract review team, and also in the final disposition phase. For our CEO, we have email notifications configured to automatically send out to him if the total amount is over $50,000. We also require their signature with a PIN for extra security. For the contract review group, we have the entire group receiving an email notification. We are also archiving the completed workflow into the contract review group so that they can view all completed purchase requests in the future. And in the final disposition phase, we are returning the completed workflow to the initiator, writing all of the data to a SQL database, and also exporting the completed workflow as a TIFF image for our content management system to import. And that's what these little icons are here, located on each step. So we have under the CEO, we have the pen icon with the red dots to indicate a pen with the email icon as well. For the contract review group, we have the email icon with the little person in the hand to indicate archiving to their group. And under final dispositions, we have the arrow to return to sender. We have the database icon to indicate that we're writing the data to the database, and also the TIFF image file to indicate that we are exporting it as a TIFF image for content management. So there are a lot of different actions that may be performed, and we find that writing it to the database is a favorite, as it allows our customers to view dashboards and reports inside of FastFlow. Since all of this data is being stored in a SQL database, you may also use third-party tools such as Crystal Reports, Excel, Microsoft SQL Studio tools, etc., to view your completed workflow data. Now, within FastFlow, we do have some dashboards and reporting that's built into the application itself. So the dashboard applications allow your staff to very easily view the data that they want to see to make informed decisions. Each workflow can have its own dashboard so that you can choose what information is important for you to view. In this particular purchase request example, I am displaying the workflow name, the description, how old the workflow is from when it was started, along with the progress and current location. So we're able to see at a very high-level view of where each workflow is and when it was last changed. Under the progress step, we're also able to see how far along in the progress, whether or not it's at step 1 or step 6, as it moves through the workflow to get approvals. Now, FastFlow also allows for reporting in many different formats to display data collected from your workflows. We can display the data in both charts and also tables. All of your custom reports may also be saved as jobs and scheduled to run automatically. For example, you could build a job to check for expiring contracts in the next 45 days, and then you can configure that job to run every day at midnight and automatically send out email results to show you and alert you of what contracts are expiring in the next 45 days. And there's a lot of value with the data that you're collecting with your workflows. So it's very important that we feel that you move the data that you're collecting on paper into an electronic format so that you would have all the data into a SQL database and be able to run reporting and track information on that particular data that you are collecting.